We are live. So welcome everybody to tonight's episode of the Beauty Business Reset. Tonight we have the pleasure of having Caylee on with us, who's going to teach about salon survival of the coronavirus crisis. Very excited about this. Katie is from our neighbor up there in the Great White North, eh? So Caylee, with that, the floor is all yours.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I'll introduce myself. I've been in the beauty industry since I started skipping high school and going to wash hair at the hair salon. So I've got lots of experience in the business. It's all I know, really. And lots of different aspects of the business, from teaching platform. I worked back in the day with Sexy Hair Concepts. You probably know the brand, and then moved on with L'Oreal Professional. I'm a John Maxwell certified coach. I won't go into all of this. You can see it here, but basically I've been able to do so many cool things in the industry, reality shows, competitions, magazine releases. It's just been awesome. I love this industry. I love the people in the industry. You are all just amazing people that want to give back. I've never met a hairstylist that doesn't love people. And so that's really why I love this industry. So I want to thank everyone for joining me. And I want to thank you guys for setting this up. You're just adding so much value to people. You've had such amazing speakers on that all have just like this unique piece of gold to share with everybody. So I'm really grateful you're doing this, and I'm grateful that you've included me in it. And so for today, my main goal, is to this is for people who want to keep their business alive. Proactive steps that you can take now while you're closed. If you're already reopening, it's still valuable. Wherever you are in the journey, I want to talk to you about turning your passion into profits, because it's something that we don't really talk about in the industry too much. And, we talk about the technical side. We don't talk about the money side. And sometimes we're scared to talk about the money side. So my goal today is to get you to fall in love with your numbers. I know, sounds weird, right? But the problem is that salons are closed and we don't really know, like some of you have your open date, but a lot of us don't know when we're going to open. And so the solution to that is to take that time, reinvent yourself, which is what you guys are all about, business reset. Reinvent your business, come back stronger. And so this is our reset. This is our chance to do business the way we should have been doing it anyway, and be prepared for times like this that we can't predict, right? We need to be able to weather these kind of storms a little bit stronger. So what you're going to be learning from me today, and I hope this is going to be really interactive too. So, throw your questions in, we can make this more of a conversation. But I'm going to be talking about the importance of having a cash flow plan, and kind of what that looks like, how to go about doing that, and just some steps that you can take now to plan for reopening. So my question to all of you is, do you have a cash flow plan? And this is a funny question because I was at a Kerastase event a few years ago, and there was about 200 salon owners, and the speaker said, how many of you have financial projections? So a cash flow plan means looking into the future. How many do you think out of 200 raised their hands? 2. Myself and one other person, right? And so not very many. And it's, in the industry and most businesses, we rely on our bookkeepers and our accountants, and the stuff that they give you is rear view looking. It's looking in the past, at past information. And so what I want to challenge you to do is start to predict the future. So if you were driving in your car and all you were doing is looking in your rear view mirror, how successful of a driver would you be? Not very, right? So we need to look forward, predict the future, and we're using the information from the past to be able to predict the future. And that's what I know is going to help get you through this. So our first step is, where are you now, right? And are you lost with your numbers, or are you on it? And my husband's French, and so we were traveling in France. This is the same trip. I have a 2-month-old baby. I left the salon thinking that it was going to run itself, and I had it going good. And this is the same trip that I bounced my first payroll, because I didn't realize that when I removed myself from my business, that it wasn't actually profitable. So this was, a couple years into having my business. And I'm there with my 2-month-old baby, and I'm following the GPS, and I get lost in the vineyard. And so, and the baby's crying. She's 8 years old now. So this is a while back. The baby's crying. And I call my husband and I'm like, get me out of here. How do I get home? And he's like, where are you? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, what did the GPS said? I'm like, I don't know. The GPS brought me in here. It like doesn't know where I am either. And I'm like, just tell me like how to get out of here. And he's like, I can't help you. I have no idea where you are. Like, just hang up and drive and find something. And so I'm just driving around trying to find a landmark so that I can call him back and tell him where I am so he can help me. And this is, you know, if you don't know your numbers, that's you right now, lost in the vineyard, and we can't help you, right? We can't help you because we don't know where you are. We need to know your starting point. And so when we can find your starting point, then we can plan for the future and we can get you wherever it is that you want to go. So that's, you know, that's why I love numbers. So I want you to fall in love with your numbers because they will never lie to you, and they allow you to sleep at night. They give you peace of mind. They do so many awesome things for you. So a cash flow plan helps you predict how much cash you'll have in the future, and it helps you predict profit in your company. So how many of you know that cash and profit are two different things? Cash and profit are not the same thing, right? So like I always wondered, why does my profit sheet say I made $10,000 and there's no money in the bank? I don't get it, right? It's because cash and profit are not the same thing. So we need to be looking at our resources right now and being able to stretch it out and know how we're going to recover from some of the losses that we've had. So I want to show you kind of what it looks like and give you an idea. This is a cash flow plan. So we're looking month to month at what income we can expect. And then we've gone in and we've taken out March, April, May, because here in Canada, we're likely not even going to be back in May. And then we've gone in and adjusted all of the expenses. We've tried to get the expenses down. There's been some great, BC Hydro has paused some of the billing. You know, it's hard to speak to all the different states because everywhere something different, but the best thing you can do is look at your bank records, look at your Visa statements, and go line by line and call them and try to reduce your spending, get your interest payments waived, try to get them to pause it. We don't want to incur a whole bunch of debt. So we really want to see if we can get as many fees waived and not just deferred, right? It's really like, cool, they're deferring things, not really. Like, how are we going to make that up? So try to really negotiate with all of your service providers to waive some fees for you so that we can buffer that a little bit. So what's really cool about a cash flow plan is that now we can see, okay, we're not going to be profitable March, April, May, and then we're going to be profitable again in June, but we're not going to come out of this all the way until, what is that, January, right? And so if we're not happy with that, we can go in and strategize how we're going to change it. But if we hadn't looked at this, we have no idea when we're going to be profitable again, right? We have no idea what changes we need to make in our business. I've been seeing a lot on Facebook, like, should I raise my prices? And there's like a whole bunch of haters being like, how dare you raise your prices when people are not working? And, you know, there's just so many opinions about it. And I can't even really tell you if you should raise your prices or not unless you have a cash flow plan. Because if your cash flow plan's showing you that you're not going to be profitable again for like 2 to 5 years, heck yeah, like you're going to need to raise your prices. And I was thinking about it. It could be like you know, when they put in a toll bridge, then they put a toll bridge fee until the toll bridge is paid for, and then they remove the fee. So maybe you're not actually going in to raise your prices, but you're putting a COVID charge until you've caught up on those losses, and then you're removing that charge again. So that's another out of the box idea of ways that you can buffer that and communicate that to your clients. But some salons don't need to, right? Like I have a few clients that have weathered this really well. They're going to come out really strong. They're going to be profitable, you know, right into the next month. And so they don't really need to change their pricing. But some of you, when you see this, it's like, I don't want to work the whole year, not get paid and not be profitable. Well, now we need to make some changes. So it's really important that you can look ahead. You can see this, and then you can adapt to what suits your business, not what they're saying on Facebook. Can I get an amen? Like, do you guys agree with me? It's not like Facebook is not there to run your business. And there's just so many opinions. And then people are getting really scared about how they're going to message this. But you just need to know the facts and the numbers and work with that. So that's what I'm really passionate about. And there's just this huge misconception in the industry. And the misconception is I'm not good with numbers. How many of you feel that way? Well, I shared with you at the beginning that I used to skip high school to go wash hair. So that tells you a little bit about the level of education that I had and how good I am with numbers. And this is, having a cash flow plan is not about doing math, right? Like you can use your calculator, there's like all these fancy spreadsheets that does the math part for you. And so when I say I want you to fall in love with your numbers, what I want you to fall in love with is what your numbers can do for you. And when you know every line on your P&L, when you even know what a P&L is, how often you should read it, what kind of information it tells you, you have the finger on the pulse of your business. And that's what allows you to travel, to be away from your business. I went to France with my husband 2 months out of every year and left my salon, and I could tell when anything was going strange, right? Like one time I called and I'm like, why is the color bill so high this month? And they're like, oh, we had a class and he asked us to order like 10 tubes of each color, and we made a deal with the distributor. They're going to send it back, whatever we don't use. And I'm like, okay, good to know, right? So what is that? That tells them that, you know, from afar, I know what's going on. And it gives me the peace of mind to be able to see what's going on in my business, even when I'm not there. And that's what my hope is for all of you, right? That you get to a point where you can peacefully leave your business, be able to interpret this like beautiful, wonderful story that your numbers are telling you. And it's wonderful because it gives you insights, and it gives you insights that you can't get anywhere else. This is like the compass. This is, you're out in open water right now. Some of you can see the shore because you've got an open date, and so you can plan for that. But some of you are like in open water, you can't see the shore, and this is your compass. And so this is your compass to tell you like what you needed to work on in your business from the past, right? There's things that were already not working, and now you get to hit the reset. You get this chance to re-strategize and come back stronger. And Derek, I know, you know, Andrew, that's what you guys have been talking about, right? Like now's your time to reinvent yourself. So first things first, we need to stop the bleeding. And the bleeding in most salons is payroll, right? Would you agree? It's just like oozing out in apprentices and support staff and inflated commissions. And I'm not saying that we want to take everything back from our stylists, not at all. We want to create a win-win. We want to create something that's good for them, something that's good for us, but the business needs money so that you can pay for marketing. The business needs money so you can do repairs, so you can sustain closures. So I want you to really take a look at where you can shed down and lean out. Okay, so again, going through, and if you want to email me, I can send you this sheet just with some ideas of places that you can start to look for leaning out. So this is a little challenge for you. I'm a big fan of Darren Hardy. Do any of you follow Darren Hardy? Well, Darren Hardy says the accomplishment of any goal is the progressive accumulation or compound effect of small steps taken consistently over time. And so, you know, it's just taking one stone at a time. And so if you can go through this every day, make a phone call every day that's going to reduce some of your overhead, or find something that you can improve in your business, by the time you reopen, you are going to come back stronger. There's no doubt about it. So now you know why you need a cash flow plan. We're going to take some questions at the end if you need more direction on that. But I want to give you also some tangible things that you can do now. Like, what can I do now while I'm closed to be ready for this reset and to be ready for the reopen? And so one thing that you can do is have your bookkeeper give you everything up to the date that you closed. So get your P&L, get your balance sheet. A lot of bookkeepers are just not providing the balance sheet. Why? Because you're not asking for it. Why? Because you didn't really know what it was. I was there too, right? I didn't know why it was important. But these are the two, well, your cash flow statement too. There's 3 really important documents. You'll need to learn how to read them too. So if you need help with that, you can reach out to me. But you need to get your P&L balance sheet up to date until your closure. And that's where we can start to look at that and then reset our plans for the future. So if you don't have those documents up to date, it's really hard. Again, you're like lost in the vineyard with me, and we can't find you. So we need you to like identify where you are. Number 2 is a really thorough inventory count. So let's look at this as if it's like the restart of a new year. So get in your salon while it's closed and count everything, record it so that you can get your financials cleaned up. One of the important things, what do you think is important about an inventory count? I know these are not like sexy things to talk about, right? Like you guys had like way more fun, sexy things to talk about, but this is like real because like it helps you. So I'm so passionate about it because I know like when my first business coach 10 years ago told me to count inventory, I was like, why? And he's like, well, in case someone steals from you. And I'm like, no one's going to steal from me. Like they're all my buddies. And he's like, well, if someone's not already, then somebody will, like, and I'm like, nah, I don't believe it. Right. And then maybe 5 years later, I get an e-transfer from my sister. And I asked her if I could share this story. And my sister and I have an awesome relationship. And, you know, we're really close and we've passed this, but I get this $2,000 e-transfer from my sister, and my sister is a single mom. And I'm like, why the heck are you sending me money? Like, I don't get, why are you sending me money? And then I got this big letter of apology saying, when I was working for you and closing out the till, I'd pinch a 20 every shift. And I figure it added up to about $2,000. And so I'm putting it back. And, oh, like, you know, obviously it didn't impact my life because I didn't even notice it. But, you know, it hurts too. And I said to her, you know what, I forgive you. And you obviously needed it more than me or wanted it more than me. And it obviously impacted your life a lot more than I did because she punished herself for like a good 5 years before she told me. And so if you think that nobody can steal from you, then, you know, you're fooling yourself. And one of the ways that you can track that is through your inventory. And so when you do a regular inventory count, not only can you track theft, but you can track usage. And, you know, there's some great apps out there, Salon Scale, where, you know, they're helping you use the right amount, but nothing beats a good old fashioned count to make sure that what it says you're supposed to have is actually there. So there's just like 1,000 reasons why you need to do an inventory count. And this is just back to the basics for business stuff, right? That we didn't learn in beauty school. And, you know, it's not the fun, like editorial photo shoot stuff, but it will make your life better because you're going to understand your business a whole lot better. So
yeah, Caylee, I used to tell some owners that they were stealing from themselves, right? So when they're buying something that's not something that necessarily runs for the business, or, you know, same thing, like you said, I love the fact that you said pinch. That's a nice Jersey word, but,
oh, really?
but, you know, if you're buying yourself lunch out of the till or you're doing things out of the register and you're not keeping documentation on it, you know, it's, you know, I mean, $20 isn't going to skew your numbers so bad, but over time, all of those things are going to skew your numbers. And, you know, next thing you know, your numbers aren't that accurate. When you go back and look, it's just, you know, it's really hard. So the better they are, the better, like you said, inventory. I think everybody should be in their salons right now doing a really, really hard count inventory. I mean, I would even weigh color bottles at this point because you have the time. But it's your money. It's just sitting there.
Yeah.
With dust on it now.
With dust on it. Yeah, get that stuff moving, right? Like figure out what you need to move out. Maybe you can make a deal with your reps. If they have car stock, you can give them some of the dusty stuff and get the colors you're actually using. Once you've got this settled, there's so many, like once you find where you are in that vineyard, there's so many strategies we can all give you to get you out of there. But when we don't know where you are, we can't do that. So your inventory and your getting your up-to-date documents is already a huge step in you locating yourself. And it's just so empowering, and it's just going to give you like so much information about your business. So number 3 is then go in and make that cash flow plan. So you're going to look back at like, were we overpaying? Did we have too much support staff? Do we need to rethink a new compensation scale? Do we need to I love like this membership model, right? Like, do we need to rethink the whole entire model in itself? What are we going to do different going back into this? So I thought it'd be helpful to leave you, with these few like really tangible things that you can do, because that's going to set you up on the right foot to then do the sexy stuff, right? The fun stuff afterwards. So clean up your financials. Now you know where to start. And today you've learned, a little bit about why you need a cash flow. So again, the cash flow is nothing that your bookkeeper is going to do for you or your accountant. This is like business strategy looking forward. And this is so that you can plan to stretch out your money. You can see when you're going to be profitable again. And if you're not happy with that, you can readjust and re-strategize and figure out how you need to change your model to make sure that you are profitable this year. And number two, you've got some steps that you can do to prepare now for reopening. If you're already reopening and you're like, shoot, I didn't get to do that, take a day on the weekend and count your inventory. It's okay. Nothing's perfect, but it is a perfect opportunity right now to go in and do it in a really thorough way. So are you enjoying what you're learning? And are you feeling excited or feeling overwhelmed? I see that. Yeah, some laughing.
Excitedly overwhelmed, maybe?
There we go.
Or
We'll
overwhelmingly excited? I don't know. It could be a combo.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when I couldn't pick between a color, I'd just mix them together. So there we go. If you can't choose, just mash it up. Excited and overwhelmed. So I want to give you a few free tools. So if you email me at success@cayleeauge.com, I have this commission calculator. It's really cool because what you can do is you can put the commission rate you pay, the sales that your stylist is doing, and it's going to tell you how many hours they can work before they start costing you money. And you can do it reverse. So you can put in like your hourly rate and their commission, and it will give you their target. So it's got two ways that you can figure out if you're losing money on your commission people. I've got an awesome offer from Salon Scale. They're not even charging you to set up, and you can get that implemented. And then I've got the Find Some Money action sheet. So if you're interested in any of that, just give me an email, and it's all free. We're not selling anything here. So just want to give you some tools that'll help you out. And now let's open it up to questions or discussions. What do you think about all that?
Really, that was awesome stuff. I've actually got a tool I want to share with you and the group. If you pay attention to my emails, I give it out anyway. But I would love for you, because I saw some of the sheets you have, to take it, make it your own, and tweak it and see what you come up with. It's a pretty sharp tool that we made years ago. Andrew, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And yeah. Caylee's the first one that I think could get people excited about looking at their numbers, right? That's my biggest pain point. When I'm coaching people, I'm like, okay, let's talk about your numbers. And it's like, oh my God, right? And to me, of the fact that you have to know where you are now before you know where you're going. And somebody asked earlier in the questions, they said, well, how do I plan out in the future? Well, you take your past, and then you take your growth of how much you're growing over time, and then you can plan the future. It's not that difficult, but you have to know your numbers first, right? You've got to have your P&L done. So we made kind of I don't know, I don't want to exactly call it a sexy P&L, but my wife hates spreadsheets. She's like you, right? She was the stylist who said, I hate numbers. And she made me pay somebody to come up with a visual dashboard on the numbers. So I would love to share that with you. I'll show everybody if you want to unshare your screen, and we'll go to speaker view. And then I will get it over to you, because I would love for you to run with it.
Awesome.
So let's see. Let me see if I can get my share on here. Bear with me, everybody.
On that topic, while you're looking for it, it makes me think of my client, Vanessa. And I asked Vanessa if I could share this story too, because she was one of those owners that was like, I don't get numbers. I don't get numbers. No, I don't get numbers. And she came to my class. She went through my class 3 times. And I'm like, Vanessa, you get it. And she's like, no, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. And I'm like, no, you get it. I know you get it. And I'm like, okay, go with me, like line by line, and tell me like what you don't understand. And then she was like, okay, income, I get that. Okay, like cost of goods. Okay, yeah, I think I kind of get that. Expenses, I get it. Profit, okay, I get it. Oh, okay, I get it. I'm like, see, You get it. Like we just get ourselves so worked up that we have these like blocks from high school math class and we're like, no, like I don't, like this is not working for me. But in fact, you know, if you're presented it in the right way, if you're presented it in a way you can understand, in the language you can understand, it's not that hard and it's so helpful. And I was the same, right? Like I deleted the cells in the spreadsheets. I didn't know how to open them up. I couldn't figure out where I saved it. And now I can teach it. So it's, you know, if I can do it, I know you can do it, because it is a learning curve like anything new. It's a learning curve. It's uncomfortable at first, but then you're really happy you did it.
So here's the
Ooh,
one
this
to
is
make
fancy.
yours. So it's your typical P&L. You put your income in, you put your expenses in, your miscellaneous expenses, and it spits out a visual representation over the year. You've got all the key indicator categories in here with built-in percentages, so you know if you're in the danger zone or not. And then it's got year to date. So somebody was asking, how do I look at my future? Well, look at the past and then build out your future. So this is yours, Caylee, to run with.
Oh, thank you. I'll play with it. I'll add it to my collection of spreadsheets. I'll add it to my collection. My spreadsheet collection. Awesome. Are there any other questions coming up?
We have some. We have some here. Let's see. Someone asked, are salons moving? Do you see a bigger percentage of salons getting away from commissions and moving to salary?
Here in Canada, we have a lot of commission salons. We haven't seen a huge shift. I think there is a bigger shift. Maybe you can speak to that more, Andrew, or Derek, you may have more information, but no, we don't have a ton of salaried salons here. Although I think it would be wise.
Why, when you say that, what would be wise about it?
I think, okay, this opens up another can of worms, right? Is your commission structure.
Absolutely. Let's go fishing.
Okay. So I think your commission structure has to fuel the type of team you want. So I'll take that back, because it would be wise for some people, where, you know, it gives a secure income. You can control your payroll from just a purely like business thinking. It's wise because you can control your payroll. But if you're going to think about all the other dynamics, then all these things come into play. So I think of a commission salon as a swim team. And so I was a swimmer. I was a competitive swimmer. And, you know, we all get in there and we train together. But then when it's game time, like you're my competition, I'm against you, and it's like showdown, right? And that's what it's like in a busy commission salon, is you're all side by side. Yeah, you go to your classes together. Yeah, you're the team in the back room. But, you know, it's kind of the fight after of like, who's getting the highest numbers, who's got the best clients, who's getting the next client. So I think of that more as a swim team. I think of like a team-based pay as a soccer team, where you're all passing the ball around to kick the goal and to get it together. And so there's pros and cons to both models, because the soccer team, you know, that superstar is maybe not getting recognized any more than the player that's not really helping out, but they all win together. And the commission salon, they're maybe not like playing as nice as they could be, because it's all about, you know, the individual performance. So I think if you're reconsidering a commission model, you have to go through a whole bunch of thinking, like baseline thinking about what is it you're trying to do in your company? What kind of culture do you want to see? What kind of behaviors, I'll call them, you know, what kind of things do you want to reward? I'm doing a compensation scale with one of my clients, and she's like, I want to reward acts of kindness and charity. So like, we're going to set up that, you know, after they do so many volunteer initiatives, they get a paid day off. And so, you know, there's some really cool things you can do with your compensation scale in bonuses, in incentives away from your base pay, that can really motivate different like feelings that you want to have in your company. So there's no really right or wrong. There's just like, but it is really important to consider, because they do all produce a different outcome in your business. And I ran a commission salon, and it was a swim team. And we were like, it was like just, we were competitive, and we liked being competitive. But, you know, we all thrived in that environment. But it's not for everybody, right? Because we were all kind of, it was like a showdown. We're like, okay, who can do it better, learn more, faster? And we just had a lot of like type A people working there. Or D, right? It's called the D or red, whatever personality.
Whatever. That's a great, but
like
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've made some really important distinctions. What do you want? And then choose a plan that's going to work for what you want. And obviously everyone wants profits, and either one of those can profits. You just have to have different behaviors and different structures. And you end up sometimes hiring different types of people. You know, right?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, actually, it was interesting because in the past I was teaching personality typing, and I kind of had decided that all hairstylists were this one type of personality, which was the, you know, more type A and really social. And I thought that based on the salons that I had worked with. And then I went in to do a class in a salary salon, and they were nothing like my other teams. And they were very organized. So we did this exercise where you write on the back, you know, what you thought they were or whatever. And when we did it, everyone was like running around, writing on each other's back, writing these messages of encouragement. And it was just utter chaos. And when I did it with this group, they all lined up in an S formation, and the first person rotated to the back, and they did it in this like systematic way. So it really told me that, you know, this salary model attracted people who liked security, safety, were more organized and consistent. So it was really interesting and eye-opening for me to see that different pay model in just like the type of person it attracted to work there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. It's fantastic.
Yeah. That was fun.
Let's see, what else do we have here?
Hold on. I muted myself by accident. Caylee, what in Canada, now I'm not really familiar with the labor laws up there. I imagine you have to pay a base rate and then commission on top, yes?
Yes. And we are working really hard to get salons to honor that, because a lot of stylists don't know their rights. And a lot of owners do try to get away with just paying commission. And it's something I'm really trying to re-educate stylists on as well, is you're actually here in Canada, I don't know, you know, there, but in Canada, a real commission worker is someone who sells product on the road, and they don't get a base wage and they don't get employee perks. And so what I'm trying to re-educate the stylist is that you're actually an employee of the company, and you get an hourly rate. And because of your commission, you get to increase your hourly rate. But it doesn't mean that you're not working when you're not with a client. There's other jobs to do in the salon. There's social media, there's supporting the other stylists in your salon. There's so many, so, you know, you're still working your entire shift, but you get the luxury of increasing your hourly rate with commission. And they really get that, and they start to understand that, and that they have to be performing, because it's just worked terrible on either side, right? It's like employees that are not getting paid for being there, or employees that don't want to work when they're not doing hair. So that is really important, that the base wage gets respected. And you could even offer a little bit above minimum wage, make sure that they have a minimum wage. It's the law. Here in Canada, it's the law. And, you know, you need to respect that. And the people need to have that security as well.
I think here in the States too, and there's over the years, there's been too many owners that try and get away with just paying somebody commission and say, oh, well, you're not busy, I'm not paying you right now, right? And they created the problems in our industry, those types of owners, you know, and we have a great passion, Andrew, James, all of us, to coach, just like you said. No, you're paying this, they are an employee, they have the ability to earn commission. And even if they're salaried, somebody asks, who makes more? If you're a good owner, you know your numbers. And knowing that you can afford to pay X, and we'll say that's 40% out, right, total on wages. It doesn't matter if it's hourly or commission. It's 40% of the total gross revenues, and you need to figure out what that equates to hourly for certain employees and or commission, right? So you know, I think that's the biggest problem. We go back to exactly what you said before. You got to know your numbers.
Yeah, it's how you slice up the pie, right? And this is how you defend your model too. I had so many times my stylists, a lot of them were educators for different companies, and they're like, "Oh, I was at the show, and so hit me up and said they'd offer me 50% because our scale started at 38 and worked its way up." And I said, "Oh, great! Ask him what his stylists take home on their T4. That's what we call. I think what's your that's like the
W2.
issue of W2, right? Is the equivalent." And so, you know, I'm like, just for fun, she wasn't planning on leaving anyway. She was just kind of sharing that with me in a kind of a cheeky way. And so I said, great, go ask them, you know, what they get on their T4, the W2. And then she came back and it wasn't even nearly what she was taking home. So it's again, like just re-educating your stylists and being able to show them a career path within your business, be able to show them what they have to do to be able to take home what they want to take home. And we got to stop this commission tug of war. It's just killing the industry, right? And it's not about like 60, it's like, do you want a bigger piece of a smaller pie or a small piece of a bigger pie? Like, it's not about the commission rate. It's about, does the salon have marketing dollars to fill your chair? Can the salon keep hot water at Christmas time? Can the salon like fix the things that are breaking down? Like, you want to work. I'm not sure if all of our listeners are stylists or owners, but like, you want your salon to be profitable. Like, profit doesn't mean lining the owner's pockets. Profit normally stays in the company to buy, you know, all the back bar, to buy the retail, to market. It's all of the dollars that are going in there. So there's, you know, a really small percent of the profit that actually comes out of the business. So you want to work at a salon that is managing their money. Otherwise, you might not have a job to go back to, right? When they run out of cash. That's why most businesses fail, is they run out of cash. And some businesses, even profitable, can run out of cash. So it's really important that we educate owners and stylists what they need to look for. And the most important is that you can offer them a career path and you can help them meet their personal goals and give them personal growth. And it's not about that percentage rate.
Hey, Caylee, we have a lot of friends on our end that are Canadian too. So we're a good mix of, you know, we would always say graciously North America versus US versus Canada on our end. But do you think that this is opening up the conversation with the way things are between both sides, where booth renters are, you know, they weren't prepared for anything like this, obviously, and salon owners that may or may not have been prepared say, see, I told you so. If we paid 65% commissions and didn't have the funding to be able to support this, do you think everybody can finally sit down at the dinner table together and say, hey, you may like commission, we may like booth rental, but we kind of understand how businesses have to operate, because even booth renters need to be profitable, right? So yeah. I feel like stylists for so long kept the profit component out and were just pissed off. Like, I hated my old owner, so I want to open a booth, or, hey, I need to be part of a team, which a lot of stylists are saying now from the booth rental that they missed that, and now it's kind of shoring that up. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we all did that. I did that too, right? I left my salon to open my own because I thought I could be more generous to my people. I thought I could stock the shelves better. I thought I could have more color lines to choose from. And like, what a smack in the face, right? Like, yeah, we had like so many color lines, and then you have to stock them all and keep them in there, and you need cash for that. And so I think this is going to shake it up for sure. How can it not, right? And like, what I'm excited about right now is that everybody's more like, I was always here doing my webinars, but there's just so much more interest right now. And it's like, this has made everybody aware that they need to look at it. It's made them more receptive and more willing to look at their numbers. And so that excites me, because what I thought was going to happen anyway, which was, you know, people are not going to be able to make it, overpaying commissions, they're going to close their doors. It's going to make the ones that stay standing stronger. That's just going to happen a lot faster now. And I think it's going to make our industry stronger. It's going to make the businesses that are standing operate like businesses. And it's just good all around. And I'm not against booth rental. I'm just like, know your model and know your numbers and your goals. And obviously a booth renter doesn't have the scaling capabilities of a salary or a commission model, but maybe that's all they want. Like, maybe they just wanted to be able to work for free and, you know, have a few people working alongside them. So again, it goes back to like, what are your goals for being in business, and can the model you're in provide that to you, or do you need to rethink everything? So I don't know if did I answer your question, James? I might have gone on a different rant.
You gave me a very John Maxwell answer that was fantastic.
Oh, I love John Maxwell. Yay.
Listen, we do our homework on the show, okay? I know,
Oh,
I
yeah,
know
good,
everything
good,
you have
good.
going on, Caylee. Don't worry.
Yeah, well, he's my hero, so that's good.
I know, I
said
saw you
something
and
like
Christine
him.
were on a separate Facebook message. I saw all your tattoos, but
Yeah, that's right.
There's a
Awesome.
question. Susan asked, what is your advice for making the switch to TBP team is willing, team-based pay? And is that if the team is willing? I'm not sure what is your advice for making the switch?
Making the switch to
to team-based pay.
team is willing. Okay, well, I would say, well, I'm not sure if, okay, how about I tell you my story about my switch? And I didn't switch to team-based pay, I just switched to a lower commission. And so we did $600,000 in sales, and I didn't pay myself, and I had 1% profit. And this is before I knew my numbers. And I realized if I didn't change something, I would wake up 10 years down the road, and I'd even have a bigger company with no profit. And so, you know, and it always baffles me, people opening like second locations when their first location's not even working or not profitable. And so we looked really sexy on the outside. We were really busy, pumping out a lot of awesome hair, winning awards. But when I looked at the numbers, it was terrifying. And so I realized that I needed to switch my pay scale. And I had to get real with myself and be like, you know, they could all leave. They can all leave because I'm going to be paying less than the industry standard. And so I took the week to replan my new compensation scale, and I called an emergency staff meeting. I'm a pretty tough chick. Like, I've got Malaco blood that's like anyone in my family knows, like, just Malacos don't cry. And I called this meeting, and I was like shaking and like crying, and my team were like, whoa, what is going on? Like, what is she going to tell us? Because I didn't want them to feel like I was taking something away from them, but I knew I couldn't go on like that. And so I introduced the new pay scale across the board. I said, this is what we're changing to all across the board. Of course, the high hitters were the one that hit the hardest because they got knocked down the most. And so that was really sad too. And she came to me after and was like, aren't you going to do something for me? I've been here 10 years. I'm loyal. Like, she was there before I even bought the company. And I said, I honor you, and I will reward you in other ways. I have air miles, you know, maybe I can send you on a trip, but the scale has to be ethical across the board for everybody. And so this is the new scale. I respect it if you need to leave, but this is a change I have to make. And then I didn't sleep for another 6 months because I was like, oh my gosh, they're planning their walkout. And I was like sleeping with one eye open, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why are they still here? I don't understand why they're still here. And they ended up staying, and they ended up making more money that year because they all just got really serious about growing their own businesses. And they saw me making tough calls to grow my business. And we just went up from that. Like, we did that year, we went from 600 to $1 million. So we gained like 400,000 that year, and they got really nice paychecks. So my advice for making the switch is, like, be real with your team, be transparent, and work with somebody who knows that model. So I'm not very familiar with team-based model to like make that switch over. I don't know if that's something like Derek does, but work with a coach, somebody that's really familiar with the model. That there's always going to be bumps in the road, but you have to be willing to start over, because not everyone's story ends the way mine did, that they all stayed. And I was like deep down in my soul ready to start over, because I knew 10 years out I'd be in a better place. So I think you have to be in that place where you're like, I'm making the right decision for my company. If I have to start over, I have to start over. And then and that's when you're ready to make the switch.
It's a great story. Thank you for that. It's powerful.
That was really great. Yeah, that was powerful. Yeah. So
That was awesome.
I have a quick hint for anybody, and you could get into any of the coaches, but a quick hint is, when you want to convert people, don't take money away unless you are willing, like you said, to have a walkout, right? There is a crafty way you can do it by converting them to hourly based on their averages right now. And then as soon as they're on hourly, you raise your prices in the salon 10%. and now you just built in a 10% buffer, and but which is the same as lowering their pay 10%. So without hurting them. So there are crafty ways you can do this, but be careful. Like Caylee said, you have to have the mindset that I'm ready to go down to a salon of one, basically, if that's what it takes. So it's a scary journey.
Yeah. And Derek, you know, we were in such, because I bought an existing salon and we kept their scale, and our top earner was earning 60%, and which worked out because the scale was lower. But as my other stylists started to hit that top scale, then it tipped, and like there was just no way we could even like lock that in as a wage. We were just way out of whack. And so we really had to rethink the whole thing. And so now I'm really a big fan of scales that like everybody can be at the top and it still works for the business, because you want to be there cheering your people on. And if you're like, oh no, they're moving up, it's going to kill me. Like that's not the support you want to be giving them. So you need a model that works even when everyone's winning.
Caylee, someone asked, and I know what I would say to this question. What were the commission scales she switched to?
Well, I invented it with my husband, but basically I have a process now that I help clients do that. And first we need to know your numbers. So we're going back to the step one that I gave you from the webinar of like, get your numbers up to date. And then we need to decide how much we can give to payroll. And then we need to figure out how we're gonna allocate that in a creative way, like Derek said, right? So, and then maybe we have some extra money for bonuses. So we need to first like figure out what we're working with and then crunch the numbers backwards to get you to like, what are their goals to be able to move up each level?
Yeah, so the answer is, it really depends. And what, you know, the specific numbers I would say to this question, what she did worked for her and her business with all the numbers. And you can't just take those numbers and put them into your business and expect them to work. Those are her numbers.
Yeah, you need to know your expenses and make sure you're covering all your baseline. And then you need to know, you know, if they're getting the top pay, that it's still going to work. So I would work with a coach on that. Like, it's just hard to mind map it on your own. My husband helped me, you know, just like, you just need another person to like think it out, because even I've done them like over and over for my clients and it still racks my brain. And I work with two of my team on it because we're like, how do we make this work and reward this person for that and make sure the company, like, it's a balancing act to make a win-win. And the numbers will not look the same in any two salons. So it is something I would recommend getting help with for sure.
Someone asked, what would the percentage be to put towards payroll? And again, I mean, the industry says, oh, you know, 40%, but that may vary. That may vary, depends on where you are. I once ran a group that our rents were so high and our marketing was, we really put people through. I mean, some days a salon would do 250 people in a day, okay? But our payroll couldn't be any higher than 25%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you got to know your model. Yeah, you got to know your model.
Andrew, that brings up a good point, that sometimes it's, you know, there should be, but there's never been in the salon industry specific ways to look at numbers like payroll, right? So what your percentage of what you pay your employees is not necessarily your payroll percentage based on everything else. So I talk to a lot of salon owners that say, oh, we pay this commission rate. And I said, well, what's your payroll percentage? And they have no idea. And they said, oh, we pay this percentage. I'm like, I know, but based on your rent, based on your retail, based on all the other numbers and the expenditures, they could be very varied different things. Absolutely. And they all make a difference. I mean, if your retail numbers are 3% and your payroll numbers and you're paying, you know, 50% commission and you have really high rent because you're in a downtown, walking downtown, that's like my least favorite client to talk to, is that, because there's so many things that are so hard to fix at that point. But those are all things, if you don't know your numbers, like Caylee said, there's just no way to even know where you are.
You know how I like to look at it? Like, benchmarks are really helpful to know what's possible. You know, like you can see, oh, it's possible that I only use this much color and work towards that benchmark number. But the truth of the matter is, it all has to equal 100. and we need to get you paid and we need profit. So if you take out all the fixed things already that are in there, how much profit that's eating up. Some salons have like 25% going to rent because their sales just aren't high enough to justify the space that they're in, right? So it's so hard to answer that question because it varies so much. And so I think, like Andrew, you hit it. It's know your model and know what you're working towards, and then you have to create it around that.
Caylee, is it easier to figure out that model if you're stuck in the vineyard like you had been for so long? Does it make it that much easier to figure out?
I'm still lost now.
I'm watching Derek in the wine cellar, and every time he kept saying vineyard, I said, why am I sitting here drinking coffee?
Sorry, I should have had a bottle ready. Yeah. No, I can't help you there.
No,
Awesome.
that's why, and that's why if you're flying solo, you better get a co-pilot in there. Really, 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 because this is, and you know, we're all in this arena, but it's hard to figure out. As you said, it's hard to look at it.
Yeah.
And we go round and around and around and around, and then someone says, well, you know, what do you want at the end of the day?
And you know what? I'd love to speak to that too, Andrew, because when I started my business, I took the plunge with a business coach, and it seemed really expensive. And, you know, I just believed that I would learn a lot, and I was ready to make that investment. And I know a lot of people are scared to make that investment into a coach. And we're not trying to sell coaching in any way here, but I just want to share my story with two different coaching stories. One, that first business coach is the one who told me to count inventory, and he told me to renegotiate my lease. And I was like, 5 years, that's like the end of my life. How do I know I'm going to want to be here? And he's like, renegotiate it now, because once you're here and you're at the end, then they know you want to stay, and they like can raise it a lot more to market rate or whatever. And I was like, okay, whatever. I just did what he told me to do. And so, and he goes, and get them to put like a 10% cap on it. So I did that. And then 5 years later, they send me this contract, and it was like a super inflated rent. And I was like, thought we made a deal already. So I dig through, find this deal we made, and I'm like, did you forget about this? And so they had to honor that deal that we made 5 years earlier. They had forgotten about it. Thankfully, I didn't forget about it. And they would have jacked my rent way more because the market in Vancouver had gone up. And so, you know, that paid my coaching back like tenfold. I mean, I can't even tell you like how many times that paid my coaching back. And the second story is when I was going to sell my business, I was working with a coach, and she told me, you better have 3 buyers on the table. And I was like, no, the 2 girls in my business are buying it. I don't need another buyer. And she's like, get 3 buyers on the table. And I'm like, no, my staff are buying it. Why would I do that? I'm like, okay, you know, I just listened to her, call a couple other potential buyers, put the feelers out. 2 weeks before we're supposed to sign, my girls back out, and I'm leaving to France, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to close my doors because like I don't have time to sell this thing. And I get a random phone call from a buyer that had taken like that 6 months to catch up to me, and was like, I heard you're selling. And I'm like, can we do this in a week? Because I don't want to re-sign my lease. And, you know, that's when my lease is up. And I sold my business from France in a week because I had planted that seed like 6 months early, because my business coach told me to. So there's just, like insights that you just can't think of it all on your own, and you need a team up. And those are just like 2 major wins that happened, aside from like all the other little things that were helpful. And that's what made me so passionate about becoming a coach, right? Because we can just see and navigate things that if you don't have the experience, you can't possibly see those hurdles ahead. So it was pretty cool.
Very cool. Again, a great story. James, what do we have? Anything on Facebook?
Just lots of love for you, Caylee.
Oh, thanks.
One thing I would say is, and I'll give you the gratuitous plug. Caylee, starting on May 4th, is going to be with with a few greats, but 2 of our good friends, Christine Zielinski and Tina Black. They're starting a John Maxwell Mastermind course. Is that Caylee, 1 day a week on Mondays for 5 weeks?
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, we'll post that up in the group. I know a lot of owners that we've talked to are sort of stuck at this point, and like the joke about homeschooling. The struggle is real up in here.
Yes.
But a lot of you owners that are looking for a little bit of leadership that may not be so specific down to, should you know your numbers? Absolutely. Hopefully you've learned some of those things so far, but that leadership aspect, they do, John Maxwell obviously is one of the greats, but the crew that they've amassed that is teaching one of the greats, I think is fantastic. And they're all from the salon business, so you can't get better than that.
Thank you.
Someone had a question. How do you determine the value of your business?
Oh, well, that's a loaded question too. I mean, there's so many ways, like multiple of net profit. So usually a buyer wants to pay it back 3 to 5 years. So are they going to get that profit? You can get more multiples if you have contracts in place, if you have operation manual. But at the end of the day, it's like, what's someone willing to pay, right? So you kind of have to look in your market and see what's the highest salon ever gone for. And in like my salon probably would have sold, if my accountant priced it, it would have been worth 3 times as much. But I never heard of a salon selling for that much. So I didn't price it that high. And like in hindsight, I probably could have sold it higher because the buyer didn't even negotiate with me. So, but I think we both got a win because I was ready to move on to other things and we were already in France and I was already checked out, and he got a great business and he was a business guy. So it really was a win-win. So it just has to be a win-win. And there's so many ways to carve up the numbers. It's usually multiples of the net. But you have to just, find a buyer that's willing to pay and get the price that you feel is worth it for you.
So someone said, did this buyer do hair?
This buyer does not do hair, but he did already have a salon and his wife does hair in that salon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned things like manuals and all that good stuff. Why would that be important to have?
Well, is that a lead up question?
No, why,
Well, like the manual is basically, if I disappeared, I could hand you the manual and you would know how to keep my company running exactly the way it was running. And so for a buyer, that's really important because if they buy it and you disappear, and they don't know where your passwords are, or they don't know how to get into certain accounts. They don't know how often you've been doing team meetings or one-on-ones. They don't even know your pay scale. Like everything, it's just so much harder for them to run that company. So when you have that manual, it just makes your company that much more valuable because it's just black and white of how it's run and anybody can step in and keep it going.
So if you start your business with the idea or transform your business with the idea that you're going to sell it, you would do these things. You would take care of your cash flows. You would take care of documentation. You would take care of systemization of those parts of your business that if you disappeared or took a vacation, hopefully it runs or someone can step in and say, hey, I love this. And you show them, this is how it works.
Yeah. And you know what I heard that I just loved was a business that you could sell is a business worth keeping. And so if you like build your business to sell it, you may never want to sell it because it's like, why would you sell it when it's running like a tight ship and it's profitable, right? Unless you want to skip the country and not have any emails ever. But like it's a company that you want to keep is a company that is sellable because it has manuals, processes, it's profitable, it knows its numbers. So yeah, exactly. All those things, like that's what got me onto all this stuff, right? Was I did want to travel. I didn't want to be, I was a chair renter before I owned a business. I've been a commission employee, a chair renter. And I didn't want to have less freedom as an owner than I had as a chair renter. So I really set things up to be automized, payroll companies doing the payroll. I never wrote a check in my business. It's just like, you actually have to physically write and sign checks every 2 weeks. Like I wouldn't even remember to do it because I'd be on to something else. Like, no. So it needed to be like able to run itself. And you can only do that when you have the documentation, right? Like I have to document it for myself or I just do it different every time. Like we're creative. And so if I don't write down how I did it, I'm going to do it different next time. And that you can't train people like that.
Hey, Caylee, somebody on Facebook, Elena asked, when you sold, did the staff stay and And did you inform them that you were looking to sell?
Well, my staff knew I was selling because I had trained my top 2 stylists were going to buy, and we had been grooming them for 8 months. So everybody knew the transition was happening. And then they did give the new owners a grace period, and some of them moved on and some of them are still there. So, some of them, it just shook them up enough with it not being the people it was going to be originally. And those 2 did move on, but the owner did a really great job retaining clients and really kept some of our key people too. So they hired on new people. So they came out really with a nice business. Yeah.
Gail asked, where would you look for buyers? I would like to.
They're really hot on this on this selling topic. Yeah, I mean, let's speak to that because I was terrified. I originally started thinking about selling my company 2 years before I sold it. And I don't know why, but it was just this it was actually at the top. We were never more successful. We were never more profitable. And I just kept hearing this sell, sell, sell. And I was like, why would I sell? I'm making money and I'm not doing that much. And so I was fighting this calling almost of I should sell it out of fear. I was terrified because I was like, if I list it on Craigslist or I start taking the steps to sell it and my people leave, then I don't have a business anymore. And so I just went another year knowing I wanted to sell without doing anything. And then, like I said, I had, and then finally I was like, no, it was just, the voice was getting too loud that it was my time to sell and move on and do something else. I just wasn't I always follow my passion. And, my passion started out doing hair, being with the client. It shifted to being with my team, and it was shifting again to being with owners. And I just wanted to work with owners, and I already had my coaching business started. And that's where I'd go to work on something in my salon and I'd start working on my coaching business. And so I just knew, it was just screaming at me that it was time. And so I went to my team first and I said, look, it's my time to move on, do something different. I wanted to pitch it to you guys first. And I had initially pitched it as a partnership. Would any of you like to be an operating partner? And that was my plan, was to stay in the company and have them operate. But 2 of them wanted to do it. And I thought 3's a crowd. So I said, you guys take it, I'll bow out. And then we started that 8-month journey. Aside from those other 2 seed plants of, looking for other buyers on the table. So it really was, a miracle that I sold it because I didn't list it. But there's so many ways you could do it. But again, it comes down to the decision of, are you ready? And I was scared. So I sold it when I was coming to the end of my lease because I was like, okay, if they all leave and it doesn't sell, at least I don't have another, so, we all operate sometimes out of fear. And I wish I would have sold it at its peak and been bold and confident and listed it and, probably had people overbid or bid for it, pay for it, but I was just too scared. So, I got out I just got saved that I had a buyer because I would have had to close the doors because I'd left it so long. So if it's something that you're really serious about, I'd be a little more proactive than I was because I have a great story to tell, but yeah, it wasn't that pretty.
You said you started thinking about it 2 years prior. So what I would suggest to anybody that's listening to everybody on here tonight, and you're probably gonna see it as a bigger trend, is employee stock ownership programs. If you can think about sales early enough, get your key employees to buy the company from you while you still maintain a percentage, so you're making a little extra gravy money even while you're not there. It's a great program. If you have a salon that has a big enough employee, you can find 5, 6 employees all chipping in, $20,000 or $30,000, whatever that number is, right? And just break it up and let them form their own, just like the airlines do with stock ownership in the airline, right? Of course, you'd have to talk to your accountant and your lawyer about how to set it up, but it's a thought out there, and it's usually a lot easier to do that than find an outside buyer these days.
And you know what, Derek? I love that. But guess what? The company has to be profitable or they don't want your shares.
No doubt, right? Nobody's going to buy a sinking ship.
Yeah. So that goes back again to get,
as module number 7 in your program.
How to sell.
No.
What not to do.
We got to go through the first 6, how to get a profit and how to,
Yeah.
et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. But
No, it's a great idea because there's a lot of questions, right? And but yeah, it's about clarity, knowing what you want, and then taking those actions towards it. And it's messy, and it never looks pretty. And you know, there's always things you look back and you're like, oh, I could have done this different. But I think if you have faith and you move towards your vision, like I was in France and I got this random email from a buyer. Like, how does that happen? Like, you know, that's not even real life. Like, I was just like, what? Like, how does this person even know I'm selling? And here I'm already thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to go home and like get rid of everything because I'm not willing to sign the lease. And here this buyer just came out of nowhere. So, you know, just set your intentions and move towards them, and doors open for you.
Yeah. James, we have any more from?
Well, I think somebody just brought up a good comment, and Caylee, you can speak to it too, but people ask, you know, getting your exit plan. To me, your exit plan should be the day you open the business. As you're building, you're actually building your exit plan. So if you think at it from that perspective, that's just the way my mind works on it, right? Caylee, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think in theory that's great, but I don't think at that phase in our business we have that like capacity to think about that. So I think if you just keep building it to sell, then when you come, you know, think about, I love the owner operator model or the share structure. You know, if that's probably, if I were to do it again, that's something I would do, is I'd have owner operators and take the back seat. So, you know, think about what that might look like for sure. And if you can commit it to paper, even better. But I think like day one, it's probably just so far removed that, you know, if you went to business school, they'd tell you to do it for sure. I just don't know if it's reality. I wouldn't have had the capacity at that point to think that through. So just keep thinking about it and keep setting your business up that somebody would want to buy it when you are ready.
Yeah, it's a mindset. Just the purpose of a business is to one day sell it. I mean, create it to sell it.
Or would you want to pass it to your kids?
That it could be sold. Create it so it could be sold.
Or like, what are you building to pass on? Like, I have one of my clients, her mom bought the business purposely to pass it to her, although she didn't know a lot about business, and she paid the manager 80%. And now she passed it to her daughter, and her daughter has to undo that. So same thing, like build a profitable business. Even if you want to keep it and pass it on to a family member, like, you know, pass them something that's not going to be a big headache for them. So it's all, you know, the faster all of you start running a salon like a business is, the faster like the whole industry changes. And, you know, you get safety, like everybody, because everybody's so terrified because they might leave to that other person that's overpaying. But the faster that you all change your business model and make it work, then those inflated salaries will be gone. And it's, again, not that we don't want the stylist to win. We need to teach them, we need to all grow. We need a bigger pie. So we need to learn to get a bigger pie and give everybody fair slices, but you need to get a slice too. And you're taking on liability and risk, and you need to have a reward for that. And you also need to have a reserve for uncertain times. So the way we're doing things in the past does not facilitate that. And so we need a new model. I don't even know that any of the models that exist are perfect. That's why I really like this membership. I'm going to look into more of that. Like, actually send us your ideas, send us your comments. Like, let's make a new model, right? Maybe there's like something we haven't even thought about that can reward all people involved. But what we've done in the past, like, it no longer works. So we need to think outside the box.
Very well said, Caylee.
Thank you.
Great.
That's my husband coming home on the boat.
Look at that.
Nice.
He's gonna tie up there, and then he's gonna row in. And thankfully, there's not big waves because it gets pretty.
I thought you were gonna say he's gonna swim.
Yeah, sometimes.
That's what I was waiting for too, Andrew.
Yeah, we'll watch him swim in soon. No.
That's wonderful.
No, I think a lot
Awesome.
of
Well,
the
I've had so
comments that
much
came
fun
through,
with
you
all
guys
of you.
answered, so
What is
Oh,
that?
good. Okay.
I said a lot. We were very conversational, so a lot of the comments that came in, Caylee, you sort of answered throughout,
Good.
which is good.
Awesome. And any other comments or questions?
Think that's about it. We will wrap it up. Caylee, thank you
Well-
for your wonderful presentation tonight. Guys, if you want to rewatch this or you only caught the end of it, it'll be posted up to Facebook within the next day or two. Be sure to check out Caylee's programs. Caylee, you want to post up your slide again?
Sure. Well, that one doesn't, my program's called the Salon Profit Project. Is that
Okay.
what you, is that, are you up?
Yeah,
How
and where
about
can they, what's your email that they can reach you at, Caylee?
Here, let me pop that in there. Actually, here, let's do this one. Caylee at CayleeAuge.com. You can find me on Instagram. Did I spell it right? It's my name. I should be able to. Yeah, there we go. You can find me on Instagram too. Reach out on any platform. My course is called the Salon Profit Project. But just reach out and, you know, share what your needs are. And I have a lot of free tools too. So I can send you some free goodies before you commit to anything. But you guys are so fun. Thank you so much for what you're doing for the industry. This is just so helpful for everyone, elevating the standard. I'm so honored to have had this time to speak to all of your followers. So I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you and have a great evening, everybody. We will see all of you tomorrow night
Tomorrow
at
night,
8 o'clock again.
we have a great, Caylee, you were fantastic. And tomorrow night, we have another woman from California this time. So it's from the left side of the map. and her name is Carrie Davis, and she's amazing, as amazing as you are. She's going to present something that will be very beneficial to every salon owner. And so
Awesome. Can't wait.
tomorrow night. Join us tomorrow night.
Yeah, I will.
Come on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks,
I
Caylee. And guys,
definitely
don't
will.
forget concreteeducation.com. Check out Caylee and Christine Zielinski and our friend Tina Black. They're going to be starting May 4th. So don't wait, because you have to read the entire John Maxwell collection before you.
No, that's not true.
7,000 books.
Well, John Maxwell actually has it. You could put these diodes on your head and they'll just inject right into your brain. It's fantastic.
And if you
Yeah.
do it by that date, he's going to come to your home personally and congratulate you.
That's
Okay,
right. But
I'm
as a
in, man.
hologram,
I'm
like
in.
when they brought Tupac back at he's going to come as a hologram in your room, and it'll be fun. It's always interesting.
Okay, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, James. That's awesome.
Good night,
All
guys.
right.
Thank you.
Bye
Thanks,
for
Amy.
now.
Good night, Derek. Good night.
See you tomorrow.